They pack a lot more punch than their size would suggest, often found harassing eagles. And here he is following that elephant, picking up the invertebrates that she kicks up out of the ground. Heidi from Burlington in North Carolina, you want to know if these elephants eat eucalyptus bushes that you've seen here. Heidi, if you've seen the eucalyptus bush here, you need to tell me about it immediately, because we will cut it out and treat it with the contempt it deserves. We'll burn it. Eucalyptus would come from Australia. I'm just wondering if you're not thinking of a name perhaps, or of another aromatic plant. There aren't any sort of naturally occurring eucalypts in this area, but they certainly, I don't think an elephant would eat a eucalyptus tree. I think they'd find them, I think there are far too many sort of alien compounds in the leaves that would be difficult for them to digest. I might be wrong, but I've never seen it happen. Heidi, if you can think of maybe, if that's really the tree name you're thinking of, I can only think maybe if you see it again, send through a blitz of a message, and I'll try and stop and identify what you mean. But there are no eucalypts naturally occurring here. Jimmerlin in Oklahoma, thank you for your question. You've asked me the question I hoped no one was going to ask me today. You want to know, how long do you think it'll be before that pregnant elephant gives birth? So how long has she got to go to the completion of her 22-month gestation period? Jimmerlin, I have no idea, I'm afraid. I'm going to guess that when the swelling gets like that she's probably between, I'd say, 16 plus months. So I'm afraid I can't give you a more accurate answer than that. I'd need to get a real elephant specialist in to tell that. Just going to see if we can't sneak in here a little bit and get a better view. Tula on Twitter, you ask a lovely question. Thank you. You'd like to know if elephants give birth alone or in the herd. It's birth, so much like with human society, in elephant society is a real celebration. So the herd will normally congregate around the cow that's giving birth. They'll trumpet and make a noise until she gives birth, and then there's a sort of huge celebration as she stands up, and in fact, I think they give birth standing up, as the little one eventually stands. So absolutely, they don't go away from the herd at all, and the rest of the herd treats it as a real sort of celebratory time. I'm really making it a fairly anthropomorphic analogy there, but I think it's excusable this once. There they are. Getting very thick in here. Now all around us, and if you can zoom in on what she's eating there, all around us are these sort of scraggly green, you can see the one she's picking now, and that's called a round leaf teak, or Pterocarpus rotundifolius. And as I pointed out the other day, in the absence of elephants, that tree will become an enormous tree from which you can make furniture. When there are elephants around, it doesn't get very big at all. it just becomes these little scraggly bushes, and the elephants don't eat the leaves so much as they do the bark off the young shoots. They really like to pick off the shoots. Let's see if she does it for me. Come on, there you go. Pick it. Pick it. Don't make me look like a fool. Come on. No, she's not eating. She's doing exactly what I said they don't normally do, and that's eat the leaves. So she will, I suspect because they're quite old, so the tannin levels will have dropped. But normally they're all, not normally clearly, but at the end of the winter they'll pick the whole stalk, just like the stalk she's been eating there, and they'll shave the bark off it with their teeth. There's a piece just in front of us here. I'll show you. And we're just on this pterocarpus bush here. There you can see you see the browny yellow stalk. There we go. That browny yellow stalk is to just prove that I'm not lying to you. So they'll pick the stalk out of the ground and feed the bush. I'll show you how when we've not in quite such close proximity, and feed it through the teeth, through the molars, and it comes out stripped of all its bark. Sneak a little bit forward. I'm not going to move from here. I'm hoping they're going to come a little bit closer to us. If I go forward from here, I'm going to hit a tree and make a noise, and that won't be ideal. So let's just sit patiently and see if they don't sort of confidingly come towards us. These two young cows behind us have been pretty good to us so far. The rest of the herd is off to my right, with the youngsters and the big cows who were showing, their discomfort with us a little earlier. They're still watching us quite carefully though. Smelling us now. Oh, I don't know if you're going to be able to pick her up there, Andrew. Look up in front of us. Here she comes. Isn't that wonderful? That's really special. Ruth from Costa Rica, thank you for your question. It's a very good one. Don't the elephant babies ever get so unbelievable how aware the entire herd is of the little ones, how protective they are of the little ones, and they always manage to sort of step over or around them, no matter how careless the babies try to be. Now that elephant there is breaking off a piece of knobthorn or acacia nigrescens tree, and I mean that the fact that she's not being hurt by the thorns is to the strength of the skin. And it's just gone so beautifully silent. All I can hear is the rustling of the leaves and the odd piece of vegetation being picked. Catherine in Texas, you ask a fascinating question. You say that this looks quite a lot like the landscape that you have at home. The answer, and you want to know, because of that, do we have cactus here? The answer is yes, but unfortunately. So I actually saw a cactus the other day, a prickly pear, which I think is a Mexican species. And the reason that it's here is because people used to cultivate them, I think mainly for the fruit, but they're not naturally occurring here. They're all cacti, as far as I understand it, are from South America, South and North Americas. But our equivalent species, so in an example of convergent evolution, where two different branches of plants have evolved the same strategies to deal with similar conditions in separate areas. Our similar things here are called euphorbias, and they are very similar. If you didn't know the difference, you'd mistake them for cacti. So they're succulent with long white spikes on them and quite a lot of sort of milky latex in them. So we don't get naturally occurring cactus here, and the cactus that we do get here is normally fairly invasive. But euphorbia is the African equivalent of cactus. Okay, I think we're going to leave these elephants. I don't want to chase them any further through here. I'm just going to pull out onto the top here. I'm afraid Scott still doesn't have any signal where the lions are, so we're not going to be able to look at them just yet. I think they'll move much like they did last night as the sun goes down. So we're going to head up onto the top of the crest here and have a look, see what we can see there. Okay. So the light has turned that marvelous gold of the sunset. Sun's still got a little bit of time in the air, but it's just softened so beautifully, and it's been filtered through by the clouds. And as I was sitting there and the light changed and the wind started to just rustle through the leaves here, I just felt a tremendous sense of how privileged we are to be out here, and especially in the presence of a beautiful herd of animals like that. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to stop here. The elephants do seem to be coming sort of this way. Can you hear the owls calling? That's the pearl-spotted owlet. Right, now. That was a whole lot of crested francolins. Something has got up their noses. They're very upset. Could be a bird of prey, could be a snake. Yeah, there, look. Did you see that one, Andrew? It was looking down here, looking down in this direction. Ah, there. Sorry, it's going to go scooting across here. I think it was a little bird of prey, a sparrowhawk of some sort. Probably tried to take one of them. They're back on the ground there now. Okay, so we had a pearl-spotted owlet just now. And the pearl-spotted owlet, everywhere else I used to work, I used to be able to call them, and they'd come and they'd sit just above the Land Rover, and people would be amazingly impressed by my skills. Now, since I got here, I've tried it 4 times, and they have ignored me studiously. So I'm going to try it once more here. Here we go. Wish me luck. Don't laugh. Nothing. I don't understand what it is. They speak a different language of owlet here. Okay, the elephant's coming through here slowly. I'm going to drive back in and see if we can't have a better look. Right, so what we're going to do is good news for you, is that Scott has managed to reverse up a hill, probably build a small fortress, climb the Land Rover on top of it, and in so doing he's got you some signal. And so we're going to take you over there to where he's looking at, I think he's got 2 lions to look at, and we'll see what's happening with them, and I'll see you just now.
Welcome back, everyone, and it sounds like you've been having an incredible sighting with that large herd of elephants with James. We have been parked with these lions. They're slowly looking like they're going to move now, but we're in a very low-lying riverbed. We've just parked up on one bank to try and get a little bit of signal. But they are certainly showing signs of life. This one isn't, but the others are all beginning to get up and stretch. So I'm hoping it won't be long before they move, and I hope that they also move into an area where we've actually got signal, some higher ground. It's going to be an interesting job trying to follow them. We are in a very precarious predicament, wedged between 2 trees here, at a very steep angle, and it was the only angle we could find up on this bank that could show you the lion. From here, depending on where they head, we're going to have to do some serious off-roading, which is all part of the adventure. I'm just sitting up now so I can actually see over the bonnet, and now I can see where they are heading towards, and they are heading west. So it'll be useful for James, if he's not still with those elephants, to head onto Hyena Road, because that is where they are going to pop out. Now what we're going to do in the meantime is try and also cross this riverbed and that way stay with them. So we're going to need to link back to James at this stage, because as we move from here we will lose signal. But at least we know where the lions are. They're on the move. Who knows what's going to happen next, and maybe they're going to stumble across something. They're very hungry. So let's hope for the best, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you got a little bit of a view of those beautiful lions. We've been sitting here, Andrew and I, just appreciating the marvelousness of the sunset. You're talking to me. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with the radio here. There we go. I pushed a button I shouldn't have. So we've just been here appreciating the magnificence of this African sunset. Yes, we get them every day, as Andrew pointed out to me very kindly. But they never cease to amaze me. I mean, you can't get tired of a sky that size. Or the colours. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just sit here and let you hear what's going on around. And if you've got any questions about the atmosphere, please send them through. There's a very gentle breeze blowing. You can hear a Cape turtle dove in the background. Rustling of the autumn leaves. Slight movement of the wind through the grass. And this impossibly perfect golden light. And just off to the south, 15 elephants walking slowly towards the sunset, eating as they go. And the air is just completely fresh. It smells like Africa. And the rattlings, the stickler calling in the background. Some babblers down in the drainage line. You can taste the winter dust in the air. I think it's days like this that inspired the poets of old to write about Africa the way they did. Eat your heart out of Africa. So I think, if you don't mind, what we're going to do is just wait for the sun to set, and then we'll try and help Scott a bit. I think those lions are going to start moving fairly soon, and I think they're in quite a difficult area, so we'll go and help them. Okay. So the lions are now on the move, but the signal is still pretty bad where they are. So we'll wait for the sun to go down. Scott is with them, and then we'll go after them. Can you get a position on the pride, please? Well, it might be worth just sneaking off-road here. The elephants are still moving here, and it's a little bit more open than it was before. So I'm just going to duck in there, if you don't mind. I mean, that's impossibly beautiful. Here we go. Okay, in fact my plan is going to change. Scott is now in a secure signal area, so we're going to move across to him and you're going to follow the lions on the move, which is always exciting. See you just now.
Welcome back everyone, and thankfully these lions have moved up onto higher ground. Now we're just trying to get into position where we can stop and enjoy this beautiful evening with these lions. They're mobile straight west towards that beautiful sunset that you've been enjoying with James. And what an afternoon it's been here at Djuma. It's interesting, I would have thought that they would have headed to Buffalo's Hook Dam, which is kind of behind us. And they haven't done that. So no surprises there. The lions always keep us guessing, as do a lot of the other animals here. There's the one lioness you can see just in front of us, and the majority of the pride are to the left of her. I always wonder what they're listening to when you see them stop and cock their ears. Their hearing is so much more sensitive than ours. And who knows what it is that made them move in this direction. But certainly happy that we were with them when they did get on the move. They have crossed over one road called Hyena Road. It's a very grassy road which is difficult to find tracks on, so I think it's fortunate that we managed to relocate them in that very thick riverbed. And it was certainly worth staying there, even though we couldn't broadcast from there. We knew that they were about to get active, and as soon as they moved out of that riverbed, we knew that we'd be able to get some signal. You can hear some Franklin alarm calling behind us. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, why would they have laid down after only moving for about 5 minutes? It's not uncommon for lion to do this, especially at the start of an evening or even the start of a morning. Whenever they've been asleep for an extended period of time, just like us as humans, it takes a little bit of time to build up momentum, and they wouldn't even have moved a quarter of a mile from where they were last lying down to their next point of lazing about, which is here. It can be very useful for lions to, as well as other predators, to stop and listen and assess the surrounding areas for any potential threats, other prides of lion, or even prey. And I think prey is going to be high on the minds of these lions this evening. It's just the young male that looks like he's had a decent snack, and if, for example, they'd have caught a small antelope, even the size of a steenbok or a duiker, or up to an impala, that male would have dominated a lot of the kill and fed on most of it himself. He's by far bigger and stronger than any other members of this pride, and therefore gets to eat as much as he likes. So, as caring as lion can be, when you put food on the table, all those bonds are forgotten about, and it's the biggest and the strongest that feed first. Now, while we wait here, anything could happen, even though they actively are not on the move or hunting, so to speak. If any animal was to stumble upon them now, they would very quickly change their behavior and their mood into a very focused and stealthy one. So that's something to bear in mind as we sit here. And I'm looking around, scanning through this thick bush to see if there is anything nearby, but there doesn't appear to be at this stage. a few very small birds called, I'm pretty sure they're rattling cisticolas. Or are those tawny flank prinias? Let me get my binoculars out. That are alarm calling at the one lioness, so you may hear those look like little rattling cisticolas. A very faint chirping that you will be able to hear in the background. Just need to give the guys an update on the radio as to what these lions are doing. Earlier they were inaccessible to the regular game drive vehicles, but now they certainly can be reached. The station's Nkuhumas are lying up just west of Hyena Road, about midway up Hyena. Nkuhumas. A negative F on Hyena Road. Well, good evening, Kevin in Wisconsin, and welcome on board with us. Thanks so much also for sending your question through. Kevin's brought up a good question. He would like to know if we ever feel nervous when the lion become very hungry. And I personally don't. I haven't noticed a change in their behavior being more intrigued by us when they are more hungry. So thankfully that's not the case, and if they did see us as a meal, whether they were hungry or full, it wouldn't make a difference, because predators are opportunistic. Even with a full belly, if you offer a lion another easy opportunity to catch something, and leopard, they will catch and kill as many animals as they can and almost pile them up. It's never that easy for the predators, but they would. But what we can take from that is that even if these lions weren't hungry, they would treat us the same way if they did see us as a food source. Well, I was answering Kevin's question. One lioness got up. Now what we can hope is that the rest of the pride will follow suit, and that can quite often be the case. I'm just going to turn off my game drive channel because it's making an absolute racket, and James will be able to send a message via final control to me if anybody would like to join this sighting. And this is great. It looks like they have decided to start moving again. That's a youngster making his way past in the background there. Oh, another lioness has got up, and she seems to be moving with a bit more purpose. So things are looking up. I've never spent too much time off-roading in this area, so it's going to be interesting to see whether we can follow them. Looks like one of the youngsters is coming to greet an adult, so here we go. Awesome. And this is the care and affection I was talking about earlier that they do display when there's no food on the table. And it's incredible how caring and gentle such powerful and dangerous animals can be. The rest of the line have all popped down, and I guess they are still taking their time to wake up. The young male's always at the back of the queue when it comes to moving, and that's not untypical behavior. But he's just got up now, and it'll be great to take this opportunity to have a quick look at him as he paces past. Or maybe what we'll do is we'll actually take this opportunity to reposition and see if we can't get a better angle. There you can see him on the move, and I just want to try and get into a gap where we can see the other lions, because I'm sure he's going to go up to all of them for a quick greeting. Maureen in the UK, welcome on board. Maureen would like to know if the two Matimba males are the father of these cubs, which they are, will the other two members of their coalition, there used to be 4 that moved along together, and then they've split up into 2 as far as I'm aware, would the other 2 still accept these cubs as Matimba coalition cubs, or would they potentially kill them? It's difficult to say. In my history, I have seen a large coalition of lion called the Mapocho, and there was 5 of them that split up into groups of 2 and 3, and it would shift around between the different 2s and 3s that they would move with. But they would somehow all know and respect the cubs that were fathered by other Mapocho coalition members. So I think the answer to your question is yes. They will not kill cubs, they will accept them. But nature is full of surprises, and it may well not always be the case. It's a great question though, Maureen, and it's not uncommon for large coalitions of male lions to split up once they've established territories that are so large that if they didn't split up, it would be impossible to patrol them. Well, we've got some good news. James has found an interesting animal that we don't often see in the daylight hours, so I think it's definitely worth shooting across to his vehicle and having a look at his little furry animal.
Everybody, you've come back to us for a brief cameo. Unfortunately, our cameo... Oh, there he is. We had a scrub hare lying right next to the vehicle. Unfortunately, it's now run off. I'm going to have to beat Andrew over the head with a stick because he moved and chased it away. So when you come back, it'll be me on camera and presenting. I'm going to send you back to Scott now. Sorry.
Well, apparently Andrew chased away that little scrub hare, and apologies for that. Nothing has changed here, and the lion are doing what they do best: sleeping and relaxing. I'm just trying to listen to a noise to the north. It has got 1 or 2 of their attention, and they've turned their head to listen further. I heard almost like a groaning sound. It could have been a bellow of a buffalo, and they certainly could do with the buffalo to feast on. But very difficult to bring down buffalo, even for this many lion. Alan in New York, good afternoon and welcome. Alan said that the last time these lion were on the property, there was 11 individuals. Now, I'm not sure when last that was, or when you're referring to, Alan, but there have never been 11 members of this pride in the 7 months that I've been here. There have only been am I losing my mind? Is it 7 or 8? It's 8 of them, and all 8 of them are here. You may have seen 1 or 2 Matimba males with them, but they aren't part of this pride. And it's important to understand that a lot of the time, dominant males will have several prides within their territory, and they essentially can mate with any of the prides that fall in their territory, but aren't a part of them. They're a part of their own coalition, and it's the females that join, that form prides, and the males that form coalitions. So I'm not sure when it was that you saw these 11, but another part to Alan's question was that is it common for prides to split up and rejoin? And yes, it is, especially with larger prides of lion. It's not uncommon for them to split up. And even the one pride of lion that we see very occasionally up here, called the Salala Breakaway, as their name suggests, they broke away from the original Salala pride, which occurs further south in the Sabi Sands, and created a pride of their own. So it does happen. Sometimes they will reunite, other times they will branch off for good. They're all listening now very intently to the north. Wouldn't it be great to know what it is that they can hear? Possibly other lions, possibly food, alarm calls. Can't be that interesting though, because they haven't got up and started charging in that direction, which we would have hoped them to do. Sandy in Indiana, good evening and welcome. Sandy would like to know if other male lions from a certain coalition may smell that the offspring are sired by the same members of their coalition. And I'm not sure how it is that they work out that other members of their pride have mated with certain lioness and had cubs with them, because a lot of the time they may be split up. So it could potentially be smell, but I'm not convinced that it is. I think it's probably got more to do with the fact that they are living within the territory that they find dominant, and therefore assume that their coalition partners would have been the ones to sire the cubs. But it's a question that I've never been able to get to the bottom of, and I think will always be a mystery to us, as it would be difficult to know how a certain lion would know that one of its coalition partners has mated with another lioness, even when it wasn't there, and then months later given birth to his cubs. Great question, though, and one that we as humans are yet to know the exact answer. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't know the answer to that. And I've thought long and hard about it, but can't put a finger on what it could be. I'm just going to try and reposition quickly to give a better angle, or a different angle. So hold on for a second and let's see what we can do. Get too much better than this, sadly. It's a bit thick and I don't want to interrupt their snooze. Look at her holding her nose up into the wind, testing the air. It's not only their hearing that's far better than ours, it's also their sense of smell. And I often wonder how amazing it would be to be a lion for a day and understand exactly what it feels like to move at their speed and see in the dark and smell and hear as well as they can. The little bird you can hear calling very insistently is a rattling testicular. It's just doing the first part of its call. Oh, yawns are always a good sign. And look at those massive teeth. Teeth are often a very good way to gauge how healthy or old a lion is. And those teeth looked in great condition. As lions become older, their teeth often lose condition, and that's understandable after crunching through many bones in their life. They slowly become worn down. And I think she's going to provide us an opportunity to take another look at those teeth. So get ready with your screenshots, because I'm fairly certain another yawn is on the way. Well, we've just got a question through from a very special viewer of ours, and one of many special viewers who are at the Dayton's Children's Hospital. And I'm so happy to hear that you guys are all watching. And this evening we're going to answer Matty's question, and Matty would like to know, are lions scared of any other animals? And that's a very, very good question. They're often called the king of the jungle, but they're not necessarily. They are scared of animals like elephants and will often clear the path. As soon as elephants come in and even smell the lions, the elephants will often go and look for them and chase them away, and the lions don't put up a fight. In very few places, lions actually also hunt elephants, so it's important to remember that sometimes it's different, but usually elephants, because they're so big, can chase the lions away. And another animal that lions will have a healthy respect for and even be a little bit scared of are buffaloes. The buffaloes are so big and strong as well, and they've got those sharp horns that can cause a lot of damage to lions. So even though lions will hunt them, they'll still be scared of them because it's dangerous. It's very risky for them to try and catch buffalo. What else? The rhino. Again, it's a very big animal, much bigger than the lions, and also they've got those very sharp horns sticking out their nose. So rhinos are another animal that lions will clear paths for and make way for. Then, of course, their most likely enemy in terms of something that they would fight with are other lions. So that would probably be the perfect competition for lions. Is another pride of lion that may want to come in and take their area away from them. But it doesn't happen very often that lions fight, and if they do, sadly, we often not around to see it. But that's a very good question, Maddie, and I hope all of the kids at the Dayton's Children's Hospital are having a wonderful time with the lion and also enjoying all the fun that James has to offer us. Let's have another look at the lion. Good evening, Kevin. And Kevin would like to know about the young male that we saw walking in shots a little bit earlier. He is coming up to about 3.5 years of age, as far as I'm aware. And Kevin would like to know, how long will he stick around for? Will he continue to stay here forever unless he's forced out by his fathers? And yes, he would. Life is good. He's got the bonds. There are females here that he would be happy to mate with. Ideally, though, in terms of a genetic variance, it wouldn't be sustainable. And that's why Mother Nature ensures that his father will chase them away, will chase young males away. And that age varies, but he will certainly stay here as long as he can. And it's understandably a difficult scenario for an animal to comprehend. It's spent the whole life living with its father and this pride, and then all of a sudden he starts getting chased out. So he will try and stay. He'll linger around for as much as possible. And it wasn't long ago, it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that he had completely separated himself from the pride when the two Matimba males, I think it was two Matimba males, but possibly only one, were on Buffalo's Hook. He was a long distance away. So I'm guessing he was chased by them. And it's just a matter of time now until we probably won't see him anymore. Good question though, Kevin, and it'll be interesting to see what life is good for him now. When he heads off on his own, it's going to be a very different story. Well, the light is getting very low, so I'm going to try and position a spotlight so I can illuminate them a little bit. There we go, just in time for a big yawn. Wonderful. And another one. Wonderful. I was hoping that she was going to get up after that, but surprise, surprise, fast asleep. I got so excited. Well, it was kind of mixed emotions when I heard that James the lions and they weren't there, because I knew it was such a thick area it would be tricky to find them. But the other half of me was happy because I thought that they were going to be on the move in the golden afternoon sunlight, but that hasn't been the case. And I wonder, 30 minutes, they will get up and start moving. It's impossible to say. They can, at the drop of a hat, it just requires one lioness to start moving, and the rest will get up and follow. But for now, it is not looking very promising at all. While we wait, though, and we're certainly not going to be going anywhere, to send us questions, and it's really easy. You just have to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@WildEarthTV. Carol in Atlanta. Good evening and welcome. Carol would like to know if the young male was very full-bellied, would he still help in a hunt? There's so many variables that go into questions, into scenarios like this, Carol, that it's hard to answer with a yes or a no. So let me try and explain the differences here. Now, let's say he was full-bellied, and the lion stumbled upon a herd of impala that they attempted to hunt. He probably wouldn't, even if he was hungry, get involved too much, because it's not prey that young male lion can hunt successfully, as they are a little bit too slow and big for the more nimble prey like impala. But if, on the other hand, the lions started hunting something and they got onto its back and they brought it down, then I think he would definitely get involved and help out. So it's a yes and a no answer. Certain prey species, he would help them hunt, even if he was full-bellied, but he would be less inclined to. But it's important to remember that male lions are efficient hunters when they need to be. And a lot of the time, coalition members, big dominant male lions, will be on their own. They search for females in season, make sure that their territory isn't being infiltrated by any other males. So what that means is that they need to hunt a lot on their own, and they can, and they do, and they're very successful at hunting bigger prey like buffalo. So, good question, and I think you kind of have an idea of the different scenarios that could play out depending on the prey that they were hunting. What are your filters on there, Phil? Are they clear?
Water. This camera needs back focus checked. Don't have much light at the moment. I can only get close-up stuff and that's it. Wide's not going to have to be.
Well,
I can only... I'll have to... Yeah, I'll have to stay on Scotch or...
Perfect. We are just fine-tuning the lighting and the camera work here, and like I said, Phil hadn't even been here an hour before we threw him on the back of this vehicle and told him to get on with business. So he hasn't had much time to get used to these cameras, and
you're going to have to throw some cutaways of...
let me see if I can reposition ever so slightly and see what the rest of these lions are doing while we wait for them to start showing any signs of life. And we will catch up with you all once we've got the camera sorted out and hopefully the lion are awake. We'll catch up with you a little bit later.
I need to back this.
I believe you've been following the lions, which is much excitement. We're just looking at a Birchall starling there on the middle of the road. We'd hoped to find a leopard, but we found a Birchall starling instead, which is in fact quite exciting. So that little Birchall starling is now extremely excited by the light that we are shining, because the insects, the few that there are now being attracted to the light, and so we're helping him catch his meal. One of 4 starling species we find here, but this is easily identified by his black eye. He's the only one with a black eye, and that long tail. Isn't he lovely? He's the one that Scott and I were looking at this morning. Well, not this particular one, I don't think. I think if we would start naming the starlings, that would be taking it a little bit far. That was eating the termites, and he's now... What if he isn't eating the same thing? No, there's some ants there. I can see a few ants, and that's what he's after. It's always astonished me how incredible the bird's depth of perception is. They're able to perceive distance incredibly well, mainly because of the, they need to fly. And so they'll fly into a branch or a tree at huge speeds and stop and land exactly on it. Unlike us, we tend to be very clumsy with things like that, but their ability to perceive depth and depth of perception is such that they're able to land incredibly dexterously, and they also are able to pick up tiny little ants from the ground. So where you and I would take 2 or 3 grabs at an ant on the ground, they can do it with the pinprick of their little beaks. Amazing eyes, sense of spatial. We're just going to carry on. There's a little waterhole down here, and we're going to see what we can see there. Scott did have some leopard tracks in this area a little bit earlier, and perhaps we will be lucky. But we've had such a wonderful afternoon anyway. We've seen magnificent elephants. We've seen lions pretending to be dead. And we've seen, well, fortunately you guys didn't. So we're going to carry on here. Apparently those lions are fast asleep, and so unfortunately we're not going to take you back to them unless they start to do something exciting. I'm sure you're all despite the fact that Brent, Scott and I have, and I'm sure Chris, bemoaned the fact that they haven't in fact eaten for so long. All we've done is show you them lying on the floor and then wandering off into the darkness and finding nothing thereafter. So they must eventually kill something. And especially for that youngster with his hip sticking out, if they don't find something to eat soon. And like I said to you, I'm going to be interested to chat to Scott when I see him, to find out whether he also thinks that male ate. He looked like he was quite fat to me. Some tracks of an elephant bush going down here. And it's just quite difficult to see the track the other way. Well, that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to turn around and we're just going to... It's almost impossible to follow tracks in the dark, but if we head in the same direction as the leopard went, well, at least we have a chance of bumping into him. Not physically, of course. Okay, so his tracks are going down the left-hand side of the road here. I'm going to look quite carefully. Looks like a fairly large male leopard, so probably Nkuhuma. Why he's called Rain, I'm not sure. Perhaps some of you can tell me. Heidi in Burlington, North Carolina. Thank you very much again for your question. You want to know if leopards and lions will happen. Heidi, the answer is that leopards will avoid seeing lions as far as possible. They will avoid, because lions will try and kill any other predators in the area, because mainly for competition purposes. But they'll kill hyenas if they find them on their own. They'll kill leopards if they find them on their own. They will always find a leopard alone. They'll kill wild dogs and wild dog pups. In fact, they're so bad at killing other predators, or so they do it with such alacrity, that cheetah distributions are almost entirely, apart from habitat, they're almost entirely defined by the concentrations of lions in an area. So to answer your question, they'll avoid the leopard will avoid a lion, and were they to come across each other, you must understand that in this area probably tops out at an absolute maximum of 80 kilograms, and which is about, say, 280 pounds. And a female lion, a small female lion, will weigh at least 120 kilograms, which is about 240 pounds, 250 pounds. So the size differential is far greater than perhaps you can see. Impala lurking through there. These leopard tracks are still on the road here. So leopards will avoid lions, and lions will definitely kill leopards if they find them. A male lion is absolutely enormous in comparison with a big male leopard. And a female leopard will weigh between 30 and 50 to maybe 60 kilograms. Kathy in Florida, I believe certainly teaching your cockatiel to make the call of the pearl spotted owl. I hope it doesn't keep you awake at night. Chris, thank you so much for your update. I'm now clear that Mvula was named Rain for the fact that he was spotted once, or when he was discovered or named, in a tree. That's quite a clever name then. The only thing that isn't clever about his name, I have to tell you, is the fact that Mvula is not a Shangaan word, and the people from here are Shangaans. Mvula is a Zulu word. The Shangaan word for rain is Mfula, so it's quite similar. It's MPFULA, Mfula versus MVULA. So I'm just being so he's got a Zulu name in the Shangaan area. You better watch out. I wonder if Chris can tell me what Tingana means. I don't know what that means. It sounds like a Shangaan word, but I don't know what it means. No leopard so far. Tracks have been coming on and off the road. I'm going to go down here and just check towards that treehouse waterhole. We're not in any rush. Well, a little bit of a rush, not a huge one. lots of hyena tracks, which at this time of the night look fairly similar. Thick bush for a leopard to hunt in. Ginny and Dad, we blunder through the night here. You want to know if there's any animal that a lion will not attack. Well, there's certainly nothing that they haven't eaten or that they won't eat if the time is right. But I mean, it would have to be fairly extreme circumstances for them to try and attack an elephant. I think we've come to... no, we haven't. It would be very unusual for them to attack an elephant unless it was seriously weakened. I heard of 6 young male lions once who attacked a fully grown bull elephant, and what happened to them, he killed 4 of them before the last 2 left him alone. But otherwise, you know, rhino, very unlikely, or very unusually they might. But very unusually, but there's certainly no predators that a lion wouldn't attack. John Q and Nigel, thank you for your answer as to what Tingana means. Apparently it means shy. Thank you for that. He ain't so shy anymore, I believe, which is very nice. So as the winter progresses, you will have more not always the best, but the chances of seeing small creatures of the night like civets and genets and chameleons and African wildcats are obviously higher at this time of the day. And on a winter's night like this, when it's actually pretty warm and pleasant, it's quite a pleasure. It's a pleasure driving around at night now, but in the middle of winter it can become very unpleasant unless you're watching something trying to hunt something else. My leopard finding abilities have not been spectacular here at Djuma, but we will persevere. Carry on down here. in the darkness of the night. And we're on this marula tree here. While the leopard is being obtuse, I just wanted to quickly show you, I gave a big demonstration the other day on a knobthorn tree and how the bark comes off in huge strips. You can see how on the marula tree, which is in its deadly the bark doesn't strip off, so although it's very nutritious, it comes off in these chips, so it's quite difficult for an elephant to do any damage. Okay, I'm going to turn all the lights off now, and I just want you to get a sense of the night, and we're going to have a listen. So if you'd like to, you can shut your eyes. Just listen carefully. Alright, so as we sit, Andrew and I enjoy the silence of the night here, we're going to cross back to Scott and the lions. They seem to be moving, and I probably won't see you again today. Try not to cry. Enjoy the lions, and I think they probably, I'm not sure what they're doing, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for being with us. It's been a really sort of pleasurable drive of great scenery and great animals. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
Welcome back, everyone. And the lions have just got up and started moving. As you can see, these two have stopped and are listening very intently. It's so thick here that I don't have a clue what they could have heard. But they have heard something. And you may hear some gentle rustling as a few more lions approach. And these ones continue to start moving now. Now, because they are hunting, and it is after dark, we don't want to interfere and cause them to miss any potential opportunities. So, because they can hear something up ahead, I am going to slowly dim the lights and then eventually kill them, as obviously we're attracting a lot of attention to them. And we're gonna, I think, make the decision to let them wander off into the shadows and hunt without any problems caused by us. Like I say, we're obviously shining lights on them, which will attract attention to them. And they're all very delicately walking through this grass as quietly as. And it's quite often that lion will have this almost telepathic understanding amongst the pride members of how to hunt and what may be going on and what to do. Much like players in a sports team that become used to playing with one another. Anyway, we are going to slowly start making our way out of here next to the Djuma Dam. And who knows, hopefully he'll find that leopard in the next minute or so, and then you'll get to see it. But for now, I think it's time for us to start making our way out of here. And I really don't want to interrupt their hunts, and I can hear that something is going on there. So at least we did get to spend some time with the Nkuhuma Pride this afternoon. But sadly, it is our time to now move on. And there are just a few minutes left where we can try and find something else. But what we can also do is try and get ourselves out of this very thick block. Which is proving to be a little bit more difficult than when I was coming forward. What an afternoon it's been. I'm so happy that James not only started off with the lion, but then also found the herd of elephant that you spent a lot of the afternoon with. I haven't seen elephant for weeks and look forward to eventually finding them. And rather than trying to carry on getting out of this thick block, I'm just going to sit here with you until the end of the show, because I don't think it's necessary to take you along on this rather tricky journey getting out of this thick block. There's just about 3.5 minutes left, and like I said earlier, for those of you who may be new to the show, it's important that we don't interfere with the animals, and that's what allows us to view the animals in such a relaxed fashion. It's because we don't provide any threats or any harm to them, and that way they allow us to just, oh, look who's here. It's another lioness, and I'm just going to shine on her very briefly. You can see her there. I wonder what they've heard in here. It could be, well, something that they're hunting. So let's just stop and wait. And who knows, in the next few moments we could hear crashing hooves trying to escape and flee these lions, and maybe they'll get one, or whatever it is in there, but they're certainly intent on something. It's a very still evening, which is going to make catching prey difficult, because as you may have heard, as the lions walk through this very dry grass, it made a very loud crackling noise. So they would prefer to have a windy evening where their approach would be muffled by the sound of the wind blowing in the grass and blowing the leaves. Oh, I just heard something. I couldn't tell what it was. Somewhere in that darkness, I heard a soft grunt. I thought it could have been the initial warning call of an Inyala, potentially. Or then again, it could just be my mind playing tricks on me, which happens almost daily. I'm just going to have a quick shine with the spotlights again. And this lioness is now making her way closer towards us, actually. And I wish I knew what it is that she could hear. You'll notice she's trying to put her feet down as quietly as possible to make as little sound. And again, I don't want to shine on her for long to give her position away, but you can see she's very carefully placing each paw down, and I'm going to leave the spotlights off as she creeps up to us here. She's walking just meters away from me, and it's actually a little bit unnerving. And you would have heard her. There we go, you got a brief glimpse of her there as she moved off. I'm going to have to turn off that reverse light. I forgot about that. But they certainly are stalking something here. It's interesting that she has now backtracked and come in the direction that they initially were actually lying down in. And that's not uncommon for lions to circle their prey. Anyway, folks, it's been a wonderful afternoon. We're going to sit here quietly, and if anything happens, we'll be sure to let you know. But from myself, Scott, and Phil on camera, thanks very much, and a great job for your first afternoon. Thanks so much, and we'll see you all in the morning for another safari.